everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a special guest. This is Laurel Gallucci.
Hi.
She's from Sweet Laurel Bakery and she's my friend who I told you also has Hashimoto's, which I'm dealing with, and happens to be pregnant as well.
Yay.
I found out like about 4 years ago that I had hypothyroidism, which means that my thyroid doesn't produce fast enough. So I'm not like metabolizing anything fast enough. I realized it because I was having scalp issues, like dry skin issues. And usually my hair is like one of my big things. So I was trying to get kind of like flaky, dry skin. And so I started to see a dermatologist and nobody really could tell me what was wrong with me. And then I went to my gynecologist and she just ran some like normal tests on me. She called me one day and she was like, well, good thing is your vagina's fine, but it looks like your T3 hormones are a little off, so you should get that checked out. You might have a thyroid problem. How about for you?
Well, funny enough, it was my gynecologist who diagnosed me as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was the same sort of deal. I was at like my annual like pap smear. He was like, you have a goiter. And I was like, what? I had no idea I had a goiter. And he was like, it's really inflamed around your thyroid. He was like, I'm just gonna take some tests. And it turned out I had hypothyroidism. So I went to see a specialist who diagnosed me with Hashimoto's. And I was like so shocked. I had never been diagnosed with anything in my life. I was like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? When I heard I had to be on medication for the rest of my life, I freaked out.
Oh, I hated that idea.
It was like, am I ill?
Right, I know, because the way they say it makes you sound like you're really ill, like your body's not functioning correctly and everything. But then you find out so many women have a thyroid problem, right?
It's true.
And men, actually a lot of men have it too, right?
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
It was about 4 to 5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So were you
Similar.
feeling anything when you?
Yeah, I mean, I was so tired. My energy was so low. I had noticed a lot of issues like my period stopped and like all these weird things that, well, my period hadn't completely stopped yet. It was just very inconsistent. And I was like, this is weird.
So it's funny that you went to a specialist who immediately told you you had Hashimoto's because I went to an endocrinologist and they just said, I had a slight, they were like, you have a slight thyroid problem. Like it's not that big a deal. And so they just put me on your typical Synthroid, and it was like a really low dosage. I think it was like maybe 20 milligrams or something like that. And they're like, just take this, you'll be fine. And I just wasn't feeling better. I saw that doctor for, I don't know, like almost 8 months or something. And I don't know, I just kept feeling like I wasn't feeling better. I kept complaining and they weren't really addressing my issues. So then I went and saw a specialist as well. Her name is Dr. Nancy Evans and she's at Holtorf Medical. And they're kind of like, you know, they're a little bit different in the way that they handle things. They specialize in thyroid problems. My husband was kind of like, really, you don't want to see an endocrinologist for this? And I was like, I might as well try it out and see, you know. And so she's the one that told me I had Hashimoto's.
Yeah.
So you're probably wondering, or you might be wondering, what is Hashimoto's compared to just regular hypothyroidism, right?
All I know is with Hashimoto's, your thyroid is actually like, it has like a striping on it of some sort. And so it's something that's like visible via ultrasound. That's like how my doctor saw that I had it. I know that a lot of the times there's like antibodies in your thyroid that just like are constantly attacking the function of your thyroid.
I've heard that Hashimoto's is the autoimmune version of it, which is why you have the antibodies.
Yeah.
So I think they diagnosed me not through ultrasound, but through the antibodies. So
looking at your test results.
They just looked at my blood test results and they were like, oh, you have really high antibodies. It's an autoimmune disease versus just a regular hormonal imbalance that can maybe go away at some point, which is why we're stuck on medication for the rest of our lives, which sounds like a real big bummer, but it hasn't been that big a deal, right? Have you experienced anything bad?
No. Like the main thing for me is I've noticed that like there's certain foods that I eat that really affect my thyroid. And if I take my medicine and I also like try and maintain a pretty anti-inflammatory diet, like that's how I feel good.
I mean, so my doctor tried to get me to go on a gluten-free diet. But I was really bad about it. I know. You've been really good about it, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like what the whole purpose is behind.
My whole bakery started out of my Hashimoto's diagnosis. A lot of people have these inflammatory responses to things like wheat and dairy. And so we started a bakery where we completely removed those things and we also removed refined sugar. Our goal is to make beautiful, sweet tasting desserts that are good for you and are also like beautiful to look at and everyone can enjoy them. And most people don't even know that they're gluten-free and paleo and all that, and they have no idea when they taste it, because it tastes normal.
It actually tastes good, which is why, I mean, that's why I had a hard time being gluten-free, was because I kept finding like alternatives to being gluten-free or just like going out to dinner. I really think I'm a big food lover, and so it was a really hard transition for me. I mean, when I was trying it, you guys didn't exist yet.
Yeah.
So had I known that there could be really delicious food like yours, I had a chocolate cake from Sweet Laurel Bakery that Laurel gave me, and it was so good, and I was like, there's no way this is gluten-free, but yeah, it's really, really delicious. But anyway, I didn't stick with the gluten-free though, but you felt like it made you feel a lot better.
There's like certain foods that trigger like inflammatory responses with me, and I like either know like 5 minutes later, or I wake up the next day with like a hangover type feeling.
During my pregnancy, I've completely, besides morning sickness that comes with every pregnancy, I have felt completely better, and I feel like my thyroid hasn't really bothered me too much. Have you changed your medication at all?
I don't believe I've changed it since being pregnant, no.
Yeah, so I've only changed it once so far, and actually I have my doses, and I wanted to tell you guys about my medication because I think that made a huge difference for me. So she separated out my medications because they make their own compounds there. So I'm on a separate T3 and a separate T4. When I started, I was at 30 micrograms of T3 and 50 micrograms of T4. And now they've bumped me up to, so the T4 stayed the same and the T3 bumped up to 37.5 micrograms. So it hasn't been extreme, but you know, in one of my blood tests just recently, they found out that my thyroid was starting to go down just a little bit. Other than that, it hasn't been that big of an issue. Another thing that I've been on since I started with Dr. Evans is low-dose naltrexone. So have you, you said you've taken that, right?
I took it, yeah. Before I was pregnant.
Before. Low-dose naltrexone is a little bit, I guess it's a little controversial, right? Would you say it's controversial?
Yeah. It's a funny drug because some doctors swear by it, some doctors think it's baloney. So it's like, it really just depends who you're seeing and who you trust. I was on it, and I got off of it about a year before I got pregnant, just because I was like, I'm not sure if I feel a difference. And like, I was taking like 100 supplements at the time. And so I was just like cutting things out to see if I felt different.
Yeah, I remember when my doctor first put me on it, she was like, you are gonna probably do some research on it and find out that naltrexone is used for people who have some kind of a like drug addiction. She's like, this is completely different because we're giving it in such low dosage that you won't really, it's not going to be the same kind of thing.
Totally.
But she did warn that I'd have like vibrant dreams
I
and
heard
stuff
that
like
too.
that.
Yeah.
I kind of remember that, but it wasn't anything. There was nothing major. The reason I stuck with it though was we did see my antibodies start to go down a little bit on it.
Wow.
So I stuck it out. And then my doctor did recommend that when I got pregnant, that I go off of it. But I did research, and you know, I guess like the reasoning for that is they've just never tested this medication on women who are pregnant. But I was kind of doing a lot of research on it because I felt like it really helped me. So I didn't really want to get off. I was nervous to get off of it, and I'd read a bunch of women had said that when they got off of it, they ended up having miscarriages. So when they got pregnant again, they just stayed on it, and then they, you know, had healthy pregnancies and healthy babies afterwards. I mean, I was also just really paranoid about the fact that so many people scare you, right? When you have something like Hashimoto's, I'm sure it's with a lot of different, any kind of illness that you might have. I know I have a girlfriend who has like endometriosis, and she's been scared by all her doctors about how she might not be able to get pregnant, or it's going to be difficult for her and stuff. And I think the same thing was kind of told to me. I felt like, you know, it was going to be a really long journey, and I was probably going to have to go through fertility and all these kinds of treatments. So I guess we were a little bit surprised that we got pregnant fairly easily. Like it took just a few months to get pregnant, and we didn't have to do any fertility treatments.
When I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, like my period was super sporadic. And then after like a couple months, it completely stopped, and I did not have it for 4 years. And that was something I was really focusing on.
4 years is a long time to go without your period.
I was like, I did not, it was terrible. Like it was it didn't feel like womanly. It was like really hard. And I like really, that was like the main goal of like my health journey for the past couple of years, is to like get that back.
You're like, I want my period.
I did. And I started working with this nutritionist who really like changed up like my supplement game, and she was like just on it. Her name is Margaret Floyd, and she's amazing.
Here in Los Angeles?
She was in LA, and now she's in Oregon, but we work over the phone, and her website is Eat Naked Now.
Eat
and
Naked
it's
Now.
like, yeah,
That's a good website.
It's a cool website. After about 4 months of working with her, I became pregnant without having a period.
Which is right. Like,
yeah,
how do you?
it's like the odds are crazy. So I must have like ovulated and gotten pregnant. I think it had a lot to do with my work with my nutritionist, and she really like gave me some amazing supplements to take that really like made like my thyroid and like my ovaries really strong. She had me taking methylated folate for a very long time. Are you taking folate?
Yeah.
So
that's folic acid. Yeah, a natural form of folic acid.
Yeah. So she had me taking methylated folate for like 4 months before I got pregnant. And she had seen through looking at my blood work that I actually had this condition called MTHFR, which makes it so your body doesn't absorb folic acid. And in the first like 6 to 8 weeks of pregnancy, that's like vital to be on folic acid, because that's what supports the spinal cord and brain. And like a lot of people miscarry because of like a lack of folic acid in their diet. And so I'm like so grateful that she like had me on that for so long before my pregnancy, and even when I didn't know I was pregnant, because it took me a while to figure it out.
It's funny that you say that, because I feel like when I speak to people who have Hashimoto's, there is something that they're lacking. Like there is definitely like some kind of supplement that they can't, or a vitamin that they can't absorb. Like for me, before I found out I had Hashimoto's, they actually found out first that I couldn't absorb B12.
Oh, wow.
Which is also another one of those B vitamins that's like really essential to like your nervous system and everything. And so I found that out, and I started taking B12. I started getting B12 injections every month. Blood tests.
Yeah.
Like I think that's kind of the moral of the story.
Yeah.
Blood tests, right?
Blood tests, and just finding like a good practitioner to work with. I think that's like the most important. Like someone you trust, and someone that you're actually gonna like, you know, you'll listen to. My husband and I, it searched a long time for the right doctor for me, and we ended up working with this functional nutritionist who like actually like took the time to talk to me, and it was like totally a different vibe, but like you have to actually trust the person.
Yep. Yeah, I completely agree, because I feel like I probably was experiencing thyroid problems for a long time.
Yeah, they just went unaddressed.
Yeah, like I kept going to the doctor for things in my 20s and everything, and they just couldn't figure it out. And I don't know, I think they're just kind of hesitant to diagnose you with something. And so I think you got to just kind of like trust your gut and know if like something's really just not feeling right.
When I found out I was pregnant, I kind of like freaked out, because for me, I didn't even know it was possible. And I like started Googling stuff, and I was like, Hashimoto's in pregnancy, MTHFR in pregnancy, and like all of them, it was like miscarriage.
That was the big word.
Yeah.
It was like miscarriage. I didn't even tell anybody the first trimester. I was like, I don't want to talk about this.
Yeah, and so I emailed my nutritionist. I was like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? And she was like, #1 rule of pregnancy is don't Google anything. And I was like, that's all I've been doing.
Yeah. Which is funny, we say don't Google anything, but you probably found this video because you Googled Hashimoto's in pregnancy. My big takeaway from it was not to get overly freaked out about things, because so I'm 25 weeks now. How far are you?
21 weeks.
Yeah. So we're in our second trimester, and so far it's been a very healthy pregnancy, minus like my thyroid kind of going down a little bit. I mean, we got that fixed so easily. It wasn't a big deal at all. I think back about the paranoia I had in my first trimester. I mean, I was really paranoid.
It's scary.
Yeah. I guess I'm just really glad that I stopped being so paranoid and just kind of went with it. And I kept telling myself if I did miscarry, it's because it just wasn't right. Like the baby wasn't healthy enough.
Yeah.
So I just kind of kept it there. And
I've felt great during pregnancy. I've heard from a lot of women that your autoimmune conditions like go into remission during pregnancy, but like that really crucial time is when you're breastfeeding and the hormones are kind of going bonkers. That's when you need to like kind of try and
So maybe that's going to be our update.
Yeah,
is once
we'll
we've
talk
had
to you when we're
babies.
breastfeeding.
When we're breastfeeding, we'll come back with another video. Thank you so much, Laurel.
Yeah.
Tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah. So you can check out Sweet Laurel. Our website is www.sweetlaurel.com or on Instagram at Sweet Laurel Bakery. And I'd love to say hi.
Definitely find Laurel on her Instagram at Sweet Laurel Bakery because that's where you can ask her any of her questions about being gluten-free and the supplements she was taking and everything. And you can ask me any questions by commenting below. All right. Well, thank you so much. Bye.